So, VK on the beat, check. I'm in Toronto where you wanna get the city love. I'm from Toronto where you wanna get the city love. I'm in Toronto like we wanna get the city love. My city love me back for my city love.
Welcome to episode 1596 of Toronto Mic'd. Proudly brought to you by Great Lakes Brewery, a fiercely independent craft brewery who believes in supporting communities, good times, and brewing amazing beer. Order online for free local home delivery in the GTA. Palma Pasta. Enjoy the taste of fresh, homemade Italian pasta and entrees from Palma Pasta in Mississauga and Oakville. Season 7 of Yes, We Are Open, an award-winning podcast from Monaris, hosted by FOTM Al Grego. RecycleMyElectronics.ca. Committing to our planet's future means properly recycling our electronics of the past. And Ridley Funeral Home, pillars of the community since 1921. Joining me today, making his Toronto Mic debut, is Marc Merilainen. How did I do, Marc, on that surname?
You did great, actually.
Did I?
You did. You really did.
Okay, because I'm sweating bullets over here,
Okay,
Marc.
yeah,
You have no
yeah.
idea. But it's one of those words where it sounds like it should. Like that's how when you read it, it's Merilainen, and that's exactly how you pronounce it.
That's right. Or if you were in Finland, it'd actually be pronounced Merilainen.
Oh, like Laine, the hockey player. Okay.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly.
And it's funny because I don't normally go back to back with these Toronto Mic'd recordings, but I was at my son's hockey game at Lambton Arena on Saturday, and my phone rings, and I look at my phone, and it's Mike Richards. Okay, now when Mike Richards calls you, you accept the charges. Okay, Marc.
Sure.
So I pick up that. Hey, Mike, what's going on? What are you doing Monday morning? I have a wonderful singer. We're gonna have a chat. It's Marc Merilainen, and he's like, "What time is that?" And I said, well, he's going to be here for 11 o'clock. Can I come on Toronto Mic? This is Mike Richards. He says, can I come on Toronto Mic before that? I have a major announcement to make. I'm like, yeah, you have from 9:30 to 10:30. So you guys actually crossed each other's, like in the hallways of the TMDS studio. We're going back to back, and you and Mike crossed paths.
That's right.
Like you had a brush of greatness, and you don't even realize it.
I didn't even realize that. That's right.
But good to meet you, my friend. You live in Toronto now. You've lived here for many years, but I'm wondering if we go back and learn more about you. I have some of your great music, but you were raised in Thunder Bay.
That's right. Good old Thunder Bay, northwestern Ontario, the Lakehead, as we call it. Up there, I spent, I don't know how many years there, 20-something odd years there. And it's interesting how our family just kind of ended up there. My dad was a miner for many years, so basically he followed where the work went. So a lot of, my siblings and I were actually born in different provinces because it depends on where he was working at the time. So
Right.
I was actually born in Lynn Lake, Manitoba, which is really far up north Manitoba. I have no family or connections up there other than the fact that my dad was working there the year I was born. And coincidentally, Tom Cochran is also from
You know what?
Lynn
You
Lake.
took
That's
the words right out of my mouth. Shout out to Meatloaf and shout out to Ridley Funeral Home as we shout out Meatloaf. But Lynn Lake I know because it's the birthplace of Tom Cochran.
That's right. It is. Yeah. And it's funny. A number of years ago, I bumped into Tom Cochran at a studio party. I think it was Metalworks. And again, I don't really know him, but just, hey, you're from Lynn Lake, so am I. And, I think that was the extent of the conversation.
Well, that to me is, how do you not? Like if you're, Lynn Lake is not, it's not exactly Winnipeg, right? So if you have that in common with a great songwriter like Tom Cochran, and you're in the same room as him, like how do you resist the urge to share that fun fact with him?
That's right. You just got
You're only human, Marc.
Exactly. And it's interesting because he's the only other person I know that is like famous that is from, Lynn Lake, Manitoba. I mean, and there's wonderful people from Lynn Lake, I'm sure. But yeah, it's weird because you never meet anyone from such a small town like that.
No, and lest we forget, Tom Cochran, who's also an FOTM, that means friend of Toronto Mic'd. He's been on the program. You, Marc, are now an FOTM.
Awesome.
Can't wait to learn more about you, play some of your music. But lest we forget, Tom Cochran penned a #1 Billboard Hot 100 hit.
That's right.
How many Canadians can make that claim?
Not too many.
No.
Not too many at all. That's right.
Especially in the pre-streaming era. Like I always feel like now when it comes to charts and, chart schmarts, but if you're going to do the whole chart talk and all that, there's a pre-streaming era and there's a post-streaming era, and now it's completely different. Like, so back in the Tom Cochrane Life is a Highway days, he needed to sell singles, he needed radio airplay, like it was a whole different game. Now it's maybe a rather different algorithm to top that chart. But you and Tom Cochrane from Lynn Lake, Manitoba, but you were not raised in Lynn Lake because you were raised in Thunder Bay.
That's right. So I think it was maybe not even a year after I was born. My dad got another job, and this was in, I think it was Shibandawon Mines. It's about an hour west of Thunder Bay. So, of course, our home base at the time was Thunder Bay.
Sure.
And then I ended up going to school there, high school, and spent, I guess, like I said, the first 20 years of my life there. And then when it came time to go to college and university, I actually left Thunder Bay for London, Ontario, and I went to Music Industry Arts program, which was a fantastic program. It's all about the music industry. It's not just learning how to write and perform music, but it's all about engineering, producing music, as well as learning about contracts and other facets of the music industry. And a lot of our professors actually were, working in the industry at that time. My production professor was the wonderful late Jack Richardson, who now, of course, we have the Producer of the Year award named after him at the Junos.
Right.
And we had a lot of great other faculty members as well. And Jack was definitely one of the many mentors I've had over my lifetime. And I learned a lot from him and from the program. And I'm still friends with a lot of people that went to the program because they're actively working in the music industry.
Well, Jack Richardson that's a monster name.
It is. Yeah, fantastic. He's a lot of great credits. Of course, the Guess Who.
That's the first one
Alice
that pops into my
Cooper.
mind. Yeah.
And we even heard like demos from Brighton Rock, like back in the day when they were first, getting
From
going.
Niagara Falls, right?
From Niagara Falls. That's
well,
right.
they're FOTMs too.
That's right. There you go. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Now I'm thinking of Bob Roper. Shout out to Bob Roper. I feel like Bob Roper had a role in getting, was it Warner or whatever the deal for Brighton Rock?
I believe so. That's right. And Bob and I are actually friends on Facebook. So hi, Bob.
Okay, and I feel like Brighton Rock was sort of lumped in with Honeymoon Suite, and that they were sort of like, I don't want to call it the Kirkland brand Honeymoon Suite. No, that's disrespectful to Brighton Rock, but you know exactly what I mean there.
I think I do. And I think some members from Honeymoon Suite actually were in the Music Industry Arts program. I think they were like a year or two ahead of me, but I remember a lot of people went to the program. And a lot of the people are doing a lot of great things, including John Beadle Bailey, I think he's got a Juno and a Grammy under his belt, and he's doing all these great engineering and producing projects. Okay,
goodness gracious here. The original lyrics to New Girl Now, which was the big song.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah,
and
yeah.
it won like a Q107 homegrown contest or something. Like this was the big break. But it goes like this: hot summer nights, and that's the opening line. But originally, because I had the guys on and we played the original demo, it was cold winter nights. Like they completely flipped it, and then it became this huge hit.
That's right.
New Girl Now. Here, okay. So shout out to Honeymoon Suite. And now I feel like if I don't mention the fact that Rob Pruce, who has just composed the new closing theme, which is a cover of Rosie and Gray by Lowest of the Low, but Rob Pruce was, of course, the keyboardist for the Spoons in their glory days, but he was also the keyboardist for Honeymoon Suite.
Oh, okay.
So, Marc is all connected here.
Oh, there you go.
All right, speaking of connected, how are you connected to our Indigenous community?
Well, my background is Ojibwe, so the community that I'm registered with is the Chippewas and Nowish. That's located just a little bit north of Owen Sound in the Bruce Peninsula. And that's where a lot of my family members still live as well. But we've also married into other communities. My sisters live in Atikamengsing, which is just outside of Sudbury, Ontario. And they've married into that community. So I spend more time there than I do in the actual community that I'm registered in. And then my mother actually was born and raised in Wakwemacon, and that's on Manitoulin Island. So we have a connection there. And there's actually a street named after a family, Nadjiwan Lane, where the old family, homestead used to be. It's not there anymore. That was many years ago. So I guess we have connections to 3 different communities here in Ontario. But again, I'm actually registered at, or my status card says I'm from Cape Croker, Chippewas and Nowish.
Okay, and you said Nadjiwan. So you have a musical project you've named Nadjiwan, and I was going to ask you what that name means, but it sounds like we're getting the history right here.
Yeah. So Nadjiwan actually means beautiful. I mean, some people will contest that, but I think most people will agree it means beautiful. And I wanted to name the project kind of after that family lineage, because that's what a lot of the song content, and thematically, what I was trying to do. I used to be in a band many years ago before I started this called Small House Stories, and that's kind of how I got started in the music business when I was about 20 years old. We were in one of those Battle of the Band contests with the local radio station, and then we won the contest and we got a recording contract.
Wow, similar to the story we just told of Honeymoon Suite.
There you go. You see, that's that. I think that's how it happens. These are the seeds of how these creative.
But what radio
happen.
Station?
I want to say it was Rock 94.
Like, if you have to struggle to come up with it, it's not as momentous to you as it would be to me. Like, I would never forget the station.
Yeah, I believe it was Rock 94, because I think the station still exists. And whenever I go to Thunder Bay, the station hasn't changed their playlist. They're stuck in 1996.
Still AC/DC? Oh, in 96.
Yeah, so there's AC/DC, but there's also Pearl Jam and,
Right.
of course, like the grunge stuff mixed with the classic rock.
And you need the CanCon, so I'm guessing a lot of, like, Our Lady Peace, maybe.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Our Lady Peace, the
And the Tragically
Arkells,
Hip,
the
probably.
Lots of Tragically Hip, yes.
Of course, you got to get that, fulfill that CanCon
That's right.
requirement.
That's right. And there's Daniel on Wild They Spin, too, so there's another texture there.
Shout out to the Hammer. Oh my God, so much ground we're going to cover. I have the Nadjiwan music I'm going to play, of course. But I'm curious about, so you're a proud Indigenous man, and that makes you, you are eligible for like Canadian Aboriginal Music Awards or Native American Music Awards or the Indigenous Music Awards. We've got these are awards sort of earmarked for musicians of Indigenous descent, right?
That's correct, yes.
Have you won any of these?
No, I've been nominated over the past, but I've never won anything. I think
you're like
the only,
Susan Lucci of the Canadian Aboriginal Music
Awards.
Awards.
That's what I say. Or like Leonardo DiCaprio. For many years, he didn't win an Oscar, then he finally won.
But he finally won.
But I'm thinking I have to fight a bear to win an award, because he had to fight a bear to win his Oscar. So
right.
We'll see what happens.
Right. I think there's the equivalent now. I believe it's Glenn Close. Glenn Close, I believe, and I don't have the number in front of me. I'd have to Google it, okay? But Glenn Close has been nominated for several Oscars, and I don't believe she's ever won it.
Huh.
So you're sort of the Glenn Close of the Canadian Aboriginal Music Awards.
I'll take that.
So this is the home of Real Talk, and we're going to dive into your career, but I got to ask you a question that I've wondered for years now. So it's regarding Buffy St. Marie.
Oh, okay, sure, yeah.
Okay. All right, so I'll set it up, and then we'll hear from you, of course. But
Sure.
I am curious about, so there was, the Fifth Estate did a documentary. You probably saw it. Did you see it?
I did, yeah.
Okay. And there was some evidence presented, some rather compelling evidence that she, although has been adopted by an Indigenous community as an adult in her 20s, that she's not part of the 60s scoop, as we refer to it, and she wasn't actually from an Indigenous family. She was raised by Italian Americans in the United States of America, and then in her 20s, she is adopted by an Indigenous family.
Correct. That's those.
So far, so good.
So far, so good. That's right.
Okay.
Right, yeah.
So I have getting heavy questions off the top. I almost feel bad for you, Mark, but
don't feel bad. I just did a CBC panel on this topic that's going to air next week or this week.
Okay, let's steal their thunder.
Okay.
Okay. And what show is that going to be for?
I can't remember.
It's just like Rock 94.
It's one of the CBC news shows that they do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Long live the CBC. What
Long
time
live
is it?
CBC.
Still around. Okay. Is Pierre Poilievre our prime minister yet? Oh my gosh. I love the CBC. I had Brant Bambury and Ralph Benmergui here just a week ago just to shoot the breeze down here.
Oh, awesome.
I love these guys from CBC Radio. And Ralph hasn't been there a long time, but Brent's still there doing day 6. Okay. So, two places I want to go here. One is Buffy St. Marie has won, I know of at least one, but she has won an award that's earmarked for an Indigenous musician.
Right. She's won a couple.
She's won multiple.
2 Junos.
She's won 2 Junos, but these
right.
are not Junos for her music. This is Junos for an Indigenous artist's music.
Correct. That's right. And there is a movement to rescind those awards from her because she doesn't qualify, not even just on the aspect that she's not Indigenous, but she's not even Canadian.
Yeah, she's not Canadian.
Citizen. That's right. Yeah.
Right. So let me hear your take. Like, do you feel that she should give these back so they can go to somebody an actual Indigenous person who would be deserving of these awards, but was overlooked because Buffy takes a lot of that heat because she's so famous.
That's right. Absolutely. I think the award should be returned. I think she should do the right thing. And especially when she won the Juno in 2018, that technically should have gone to Kelly Fraser. And unfortunately, Kelly Fraser took her own life a number of years ago. So it'd be nice to rescind the award and give it to Kelly's family because everyone thought Kelly was going to win the award that year. And to be honest with you, Buffy was quite arrogant about winning the award. Again, we have mutual friends. And I just don't approve of what she's done. And what a way to end your legacy in being dishonored and in shame like that.
So she was tipped off the Fifth Estate thing was coming, obviously, and then suddenly she retires from performing and does her final interviews and stuff, and she just lays very low right now. But she did change her bio on her official website to no longer allude to the 60s scoop, as it's known.
That's right. Well, her son Cody actually came out 3 years ago and told everyone this, but no one actually listened to him.
Yeah, that's interesting too, because I did read about this, like the tanning regiment and stuff to keep the skin to have darker complexion, and the way wear the hair and the way to speak and everything. And what bothers me, and again, we're similar vintage. I'm a bit younger, but I was raised on Sesame Street.
Oh yeah, so was I. Yeah,
okay.
Me too.
And when I was tuning into Sesame Street in the late 70s. My favorite person on that show was Buffy St. Marie.
Absolutely.
Way before this Fifth Estate revelation, I would say on this very program that I considered her like my other mother. Like it really does break my heart because she knowingly deceived me and others, and like I was personally offended and hurt by what she did. And I wish she'd just come clean and apologize, and maybe I wish she would just like tell us like why, like, and even if it's like I did it because I was just a run-of-the-mill singer-songwriter, Italian American from. Trying to remember what state she's from, but it's a northeast state. But it'll come to me later, Maine or something. I can't remember. But like, just come clean. But she seems strangely like stubborn on this, as if like, no, I'm Indigenous because a family did adopt her as an adult. But she presented herself as having Canadian Indigenous roots. But my opinion, I don't think my opinion matters. My grandparents lived in Ireland. Like, I don't think I have no Indigenous roots that I know of. But you, of course, I would be very interested in your thoughts on what Buffy did and how you feel about the fact she's just kind of living out her life in Hawaii in radio silence, and she doesn't even, won't even kind of own that she misled us intentionally all those years.
Yeah, no, it is terrible. I mean, even when the first sort of Fifth Estate, episode dropped, I think it was a huge bombshell, and I think it's taken months, if not an entire year, for our community to kind of get over it, and we're over it now. Now we're looking for justice, actually, and you watch coming in 2025, there's going to be a movement, a legal movement, if you will, going against pretendians. We call them pretendians. Yep. And we actually started a program at our company, Merilainen Music. I also run a label. Yeah. It's called the VIP program. That stands for Verified Indigenous Performer. So we're verifying Indigenous musicians. So this doesn't happen in the future because there's quite a few pretendians still in the marketplace taking all the money.
Do you want to name any?
Someone already has. If you go to the Ghost Warrior Society, they've already named names. And if you go to Frank, you remember Frank magazine, the political magazine?
Yeah, of course.
Well, they've already done a front page story on one of the pretendians.
Okay, so my issue was they would have a very serious thing, and then it would be beside this ridiculous, like, so it was tough to take everything Frank published.
Sure,
like,
yeah,
for me,
yeah, sure.
They didn't have the credibility as a
Sure.
CBC would have with
That's
the
right,
Fifth
that's right.
State or whatever. But I am curious if there's a pretendian out there who maybe a musician or something that's presenting that. You don't have to name names, obviously.
Yeah. Well, this is a well-known musician, too. So the community is aware, and we're actually doing something about it. That process
Can you give me a clue?
is taking place. I'll tell you off camera.
Okay.
Only because there's going to be legal proceedings happening in 2025.
Well, off camera, you'll give me the name.
I'll tell you exactly.
Give you a heads up on what might happen in 2025 here.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay, so interesting to get your views, because I can tell you this. So I was very vocal off the top after the Fifth Estate, which I watched multiple times because I had to see it multiple times. And the evidence was so compelling. And then I was so hurt by it all. Like on this very program, I would basically talk about the pain I felt. And I'm, again, just a white dude with European ancestry here. But I was so hurt by this. And then people, and I won't name the names, but FOTMs seemed very, very protective. Like, it doesn't matter. They would get kind of angry at me. Like, Art Bergman came on this show and almost punched me.
Oh, no.
Because, yeah, I know. He's got the Order of Canada. Come on. But So does Buffy, by the way. Like, does
That's-
she have to give that
I think
back?
that'll.
She's not even
That's right.
Canadian.
She's not even Canadian. That's right. But I think a lot of people are experiencing cognitive dissonance over this issue because, again, I'm not in everyone's heads, but
No.
there's something about the truth that affects people's delusions about
Right.
reality, and they don't want that delusion changed because then they got to start questioning other things in their life too, right? So
No, absolutely. And I think there's a time period where you sort of digest and process. And I think for a lot of these people who right away were, I have the names, okay, I have the receipts, but they were jumping. How dare you? Basically, like what she did for the Indigenous community. Like, Mike, what have you done? And I'm like, well, I'm not Indigenous. You know, I have a forum here, and good people like yourself are welcome to come on and chat me up anytime you want. And I did actually take great efforts to get Buffy St. Marie on Toronto Mike before the Fifth Estate revelation, because she was my second mother when I was growing up. But it is fascinating to hear your take on that, and that there's this legal movement in 2025. I would love to see the late. Please remind me, is it Kelly Fraser?
Kelly Fraser, that's right.
Fraser.
She was a wonderful Inuk artist from up north.
Tell me about Kelly. That name is interesting because there's a famous referee in hockey named Carey Fraser.
Oh, okay.
Who missed
there you
the high stick. Wayne Gretzky high sticked Doug Gilmour in Game 7 of the Campbell Conference Final when he was with the LA Kings, and Toronto was supposed to win that series to go face the Montreal Canadiens in the Stanley Cup Final. This is 1993.
Okay.
And I still have, that's Wendell Clark, but in the washroom, if
right.
you use it, you'll see Doug Gilmour there. Like, that's my team.
Okay.
That was my team.
Right
so
on.
this is not Carey Fraser, okay? Kelly Fraser.
Kelly Fraser, that's right.
So tragic to hear that she's no longer with us.
That's right. She had a wonderful record that was nominated for Juno that year called Sedna. And she was really working hard in the industry. She was an independent artist, so she was kind of doing everything herself, financing everything herself, and we tried to help her as best as we can. She did a lot of recordings at our studio at Merilainen Music, and we developed quite a friendship. And we were in the process of actually recording her next record, which is 90% done.
Wow.
So it's actually complete. She has a whole new record. Now it's just trying to figure out timing and speaking with the family to release it, as well as I'd like to set up a bursary or some kind of scholarship fund, because she was always really, she was a big activist, for Indigenous, rights and other sort of issues. And we'd like to see someone from her community, whether use that scholarship to go to university or pursue their dreams. So we'd like to set that
Excellent.
up. So again, that's something we're working on in the coming year.
Okay, you mentioned now a couple of times Merilainen Music.
That's right.
So do you have a studio?
We do. We have a studio on Roncesvalles, which is our home production studio.
All right, Around the Horn is on Ronces, am I right?
That's right. It's
and they sell Great Lakes beer there, and I
right.
met the owner, actually.
It's like
She's
50
great.
feet away from us.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I know
there you go.
exactly where you are then.
We're
Okay,
then
Around
we're
the
there.
Horn.
That's right. We're just down there. So we do, it's mostly, like, we're not really commercial studio. We're not open, so someone can book us for whatever they want to do. It's mostly for our artists.
Okay.
And I do a lot of pre-production there for records before we go out and record the record wherever we may go. And we also actually tape a podcast show called The Church of Marc there, which I started a few years ago. And I mean, we talk to a variety of different people, but I want to say 90% of our guests are Indigenous artists and creators.
Yeah, you've been doing some important work in the rise of Indigenous music in this country, and you're supporting these artists, and that's amazing. So congrats on that.
Well, thank you so much. I mean, I've had so much help and support over the years, and I'm kind of at the stage in my life where I feels like I need to give back, and that's what community should all be about.
So you're giving back in many ways, but you're still making new music yourself. So I want to speak specifically about this Indigenous music project, Nadjiwan, which
Yes.
we referred to earlier. So you have a new album. It's called The Mission.
That's right.
And you didn't record that in Ronces.
No, we didn't. We went to New Mexico to do that. We were on the Apache Reservation in Mescalero County.
So what? Oh, now I'm thinking of that Johnny Appleseed by Joe Strummer and the Mescaleros.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Put that in my head, which was okay.
That's
Quick tangent. We're coming right back to The Mission, okay, my friend. But there was this show. It only got one season on HBO. It was called John from Cincinnati. And I loved this show.
Okay,
I just loved the show. No, I
Okay.
mean, no one did, but it came on after The Sopranos. So, I mean, it did have that big pilot after The Sopranos, which is kind of what
Right.
you want, especially back then.
Yeah.
But it only got one season. I mean, this is a show that literally had both Zach Morris and Dylan McKay. Okay, so Zach Morris is a character from Saved by the Bell. Dylan McKay is a character from 90210. But the actors who played those heartthrobs were both in this darn show. I love this show, but the theme song to that show was Joe Strummer and the Mescaleros' Johnny Appleseed. So neither here nor there. But you're in New Mexico. So why did you go to New Mexico to record The Mission?
You know, that's a really good question, and it has a great answer. So Ron and I, we've both been working in and out of New Mexico for the past couple of decades.
Who's Ron?
Ron Skinner, who is my co-producer and engineered the record. Ron also was a producer for CBC Radio. I mean, he's now retired. And he's been spending a lot of time in Clovis, New Mexico, working with the Norman Petty studio there. And so that's the studio that's recorded a lot of great, rock and roll acts from the 50s and 60s, including Buddy Holly. So the studio still exists. So he's actually working with them, trying to maintain that studio because it is a historic sort of building and business. And I spent a lot of time in New Mexico. I've been down there. Maybe I first went down there 20 years ago now. And actually, one of my good friends and guitar that manufactures my guitars is called Longbow Guitars, and he's based in New Mexico, and that's John Longbow, based in Rio Rancho, New Mexico, and he's built the awesome Nadjiwan Signature Series electric guitar that I use on my recordings. So we went down to New Mexico because we're familiar with it, and we love the state. We love going down there. There's a lot of great people, a lot of great food, a lot of great scenery. We weren't too far from the White Sands. If anyone's been to New Mexico, there's this wonderful, it's a national park, I believe. It's called the White Sands. And basically, it looks like snow, but it is sand, and it goes on for miles and miles, and you can see it from 100 miles away driving to it. And it's been there for thousands of years, and it's actually not sand. It's gypsum that have come down from the mountains and just through years of erosion and rain ended up in this valley. And there's just dunes and dunes of this white sand. Looks like snow. And they even have toboggans. You can actually go down some of the dunes if you want.
Sounds amazing.
And then the other part of New Mexico was in the mountains. So we were recording about 6,900 feet above sea level. And then being that high above sea level, of course, that takes a toll on your oxygen. So I couldn't even make it through any of the songs, like singing, without having to take a break. I had to take a break halfway.
Wow.
Yeah, because I just couldn't get the oxygen in to sing.
No, interesting. Okay, so I have tracks that I'm going to play from The Mission, and then you're going to bury me in information on this. Okay. 'Cause I love the detail. But I'm going to ask you just a couple. Now that we've got to know you a lot better now, but can you tell me about Sultans of String?
Yes, I've been working with the Sultans of String on this wonderful collaborative project called Walking Through the Fire. Chris McCool, who is the band leader. And
is that a real name?
It is a real name.
That's amazing.
I know, it is awesome. It is like the coolest name, Chris McCool. Cool. Yeah. So he had reached out to me a few years ago asking if I wanted to be part of this project. And of course I said yes, because I see it as an amazing opportunity to further promote Indigenous music and also to get this music into maybe venues that we may not have been able to perform before. Because we've been performing with various symphonies. We performed with the Winnipeg Symphony Orchestra. We performed with the Niagara Symphony Orchestra. We performed with the Stratford Orchestra. So as well as the Scarborough Bluffs Symphony as well. And we have more shows coming in the new year as well.
There's a Scarborough Bluffs Symphony?
That's right. They actually have a symphony. Oh,
okay.
Yeah, Scarborough, yeah.
I did not know that. Yeah. I feel like Lawrence Gowan's got to be a part of that symphony because he lives near the Scarborough Bluffs. That's the only reason I mentioned that.
Okay, yeah. And yeah, they're a great group of players. But it was a really great treat playing with, of course, the Winnipeg Symphony because they're world class.
Right. Amazing. And then, again, getting to The Mission, I'm going to give you some gifts, and then we're going to get to The Mission, and can't wait to play this music and talk about it. But you also performed at the 2010 Vancouver Winter Olympics.
Yes, that's right. We did. Yeah.
So just give me what was that like? I watched it very closely on TV here from Toronto. What a successful Olympics there for us. And, of course, it ends with a golden goal by Sidney Crosby. But, can you tell me a little bit about performing there?
Yeah, I mean, the whole time was crazy. Also, the call just came out of the blue. I was sitting at home, and we had just released a record. And then I got a call from the Olympics.
We Nadjiwan? Is that or like who is we just released?
Oh, my wife. I mean,
Okay.
I always bring my wife into it because she actually technically manages me as well, and everything we do is kind of like a unit. So
It takes a village.
And then we also refer to everyone else in the project. That includes, of course, Ron, producer, and of course,
Right, Ron's
I've worked with the same bandmates now for the past decade.
Okay, shout out the band mates,
right.
and then we'll get back to Vancouver.
Yeah. So shout out to Alex Mine, my drummer. Shout out to Adam Gamori. Shout out to Jean-Paul DeRover, and a big shout out to Kevin LaLiberté, who also plays with the Sultans, who's just come on as additional guitar player.
Okay, amazing. And so when you played at the Vancouver Winter Olympics, was that for athletes or was that like in what context?
We were contacted by the province of Ontario because they had a Ontario House set up there. So we played. We were one of the many acts from Ontario. Every night during the Olympics, they had a band from Ontario at Ontario House.
Amazing.
Various, I can't even name them all, but they were all quite well known, famous.
Like, are we talking like would Blue Rodeo be playing? I'm thinking of Ontario bands now.
Yeah,
but,
they're all. Yeah, that's right. They all would have been done at Ontario House. Whoever was big during 2010, they were playing Ontario House. So
okay.
We were asked to do a show, and of course we said yes, and it was fantastic. They drove us around in limos, and they treated us like stars, and we had a great time because it was a really good energy in Vancouver at the time.
Oh, I remember seeing it looked like a great energy. Now, you got driven around in limos. I recall they put Wayne Gretzky in the back of a pickup truck.
Oh, did they?
Do you remember that? Like, he had the Olympic torch, and he's in the back, and I was like, oh, this is the most Canadian. Like, we just saw Paris and what they did for their opening.
That's right.
The opening ceremony of the Summer Games there. Oh, no, we put the great one in the back of a pickup truck. Great one, though. The stock is a little tarnished now because he partied hard at Mar-a-Lago when Donald Trump was elected.
That's right. That's what I heard. That's what I heard.
I believe his wife put it all over Instagram. So Janet Jones there. But the great one, still a great hockey player. We'll leave his politics aside for this conversation. But he's in the back of a pickup. But you, my friend, Marc, are in a limo.
Yes. So they drove us around in a limo, and we had a great time. And on the ride back to the airport, it was like one of those party buses.
Oh.
Like there's a stripper pole in there, but no strippers, of course.
No strippers? Okay. That's the unsanctioned
that's right.
party bus,
That's right,
not the official Ontario House one. So tell me then, in 2015, 5 years later, we here in Toronto, we don't get an Olympics in Toronto, but we do get a Pan Am Games. And it came with a lot of really great infrastructure, like the aquatic center and some new bike lanes. And there's a lot of good stuff that came with it. I'll say, shout out to the Pan Am Games. And Andre DeGrasse made a name for himself in those games as well. But you got to play the 2015 Pan Am Games here in Toronto.
Yes, it was, again, a great time. It was the stage was set up down at Fort York. It was outdoors, perfect evening. Great group of people, great audience, and we just played our hearts out. I love playing these live shows, outdoors. I mean, there are pros and cons of playing outdoors. Of course, there's mosquitoes sometimes and humidity, but it's always a great time.
I love outdoor shows, like especially when temps are in the double digits.
That's right. Yeah.
But I love an outdoor show.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we played an outdoor show once in the winter. It was during the 2000 Y2K down at Harborfront Center, and it was like freezing cold, but they had like heaters on stage, so we were able to do it,
Nice. Few gifts here before I'm going to play the title track, The Mission. We're going to talk about it, but I have, now again, the timing is such that I think I have it. I'm expecting a delivery this morning of frozen lasagnas, so I'm going to make, and if I don't have it, I will bike it to Roncy's to the studio
awesome.
or whatever.
Thank you.
So you are going to get a frozen lasagna from Palma Pasta.
Oh, great.
They're in Mississauga and Oakville. Delicious, authentic Italian food. You're going to love it. They just hosted us at TMLX 17 a couple of weekends ago at their Palmas Kitchen location. But you can go there, get all your holiday requirements. What is it called? Panettone? I'm trying to remember. These are the Italian panettone, I think it's called. But there's just delicious, authentic Italian food. So thank you, Palma Pasta. Great Lakes Brewery. That's what they serve at Around the Horn there in Roncy's.
That's right. They do.
They've sent over... Here, Mike Richards was here, okay? Drank himself. I think you're here at 11 o'clock. You probably don't want to down a beer. I didn't make any assumptions here. But Mike Richards was here at 9:30 and cracked open his Canuck Pale Ale here. But you've got some fresh craft beer from Great Lakes for you, Mark. So you got that. I also have, again, let me grab it here. Everything's falling. Here I am. This is going back to back. I'm not even set up. Okay, I have a measuring tape from Ridley Funeral Home.
Oh, awesome.
They're in the neighborhood here.
Okay.
they're pillars of this community, and they have a great podcast called Life's Undertaking. Brad Jones hosted it, and I highly recommend it. He talks about life, death. It's a really wonderful podcast. Speaking of wonderful podcasts, this is a wireless speaker for you, Mark.
Oh, awesome. Oh, thank you so much.
Moneris sent that over.
Oh, wicked.
And Moneris gently urges you to listen to Season 7 of Yes, We Are Open, which is an award-winning podcast where Al Grego went to Winnipeg. Well, he went to Winnipeg, and he talked to small business owners about their triumphs and their tribulations and their journey, and we get great stories about small business owners and what it takes to succeed in this big bad world. But then he also did some episodes here in Ontario, because the final episode of Season 7, which just dropped, features Retro Festive, which is a great holiday pop culture store in Oakville, and Ty the Christmas guy is an FOTM, and he was at TMLX17, and he was interviewed by the aforementioned Al Grego. So listen to Season 7 of Yes, We Are Open from Moneris. And last but not least, because you're a musician, I'm gonna guess you have some old cables. I don't know, you have old devices, old laptops, you have old electronics that haven't been booted up in a decade. Who knows what's going on over there? But don't throw those old electronics and cables in the garbage, because those chemicals end up in our landfill. Go to recyclemyelectronics.ca, put in your postal code, and then find out, there's a place here in Ronces I can drop it off, and then it will be properly recycled. You got it, Mark?
You got it, yeah.
All right, let's play some music, buddy. Let's hear.
Right.
Let's not make it the same. So we change the rules of the game. Take the mail, you take the mail, you take the mail and run. You take the mail, you take the mail, you take the mail and run.
We're starting with the opening track here. I have some of the singles loaded up as well, but please just maybe a little bit about so you mentioned it's the 30th anniversary of Nadjiwan?
That's right, 30th.
30th anniversary.
30 years, I know. Who'd have thought, eh?
'Cause you're barely 30 yourself. I'm just doing the math over here. My goodness gracious. But tell me the process and when you write and how the album came to be, the mission.
Well, the material for the mission actually came together really quick, because I had a call from Ron Skinner saying, we should do the next record. Let's do it in Mexico. And that was literally a month, maybe just over a month, that we had to put the material together. So in that 3 to 4 weeks, I started, writing some songs. And I actually didn't complete even lyrics until we got to New Mexico. And I wrote a lot of the lyrics while we were in the church where we did the recording.
And it was St. Joseph Mission.
St. Joseph Mission, that's right. It's over 100-year-old church. It's located on the Apache Reservation.
That's cool. It's cool just to have a makeshift studio in a 100-year-old church. Yeah,
the acoustics in there are just fantastic. And it's the construction of that church is quite amazing. You kind of have to see it for yourself. And there's actually another church owned by sort of the same parish that we went to. It's in the middle of the desert. It's not even on a map, so we had to get someone to draw us a map on a napkin and go out in the middle of the desert, and we took some pictures out there. It wouldn't have been suitable for recording because at that place in the middle of the desert there was no electricity, and then we couldn't obviously use generators. They'd be too noisy for recordings. So we ended up at St. Joseph Mission, which was located in the heart of the res, in Escalero, and had electricity, and more importantly had bathrooms.
Oh yeah, although you don't need a bathroom.
Oh, of course not. That's right.
But amazing. Now, storytelling. You know what? Maybe I'll let this take us to the next song, which was a single from this album, and then I'm going to ask you about storytelling through music.
Sure.
Here we go.
can hear it all too well. Turn back your head to face the truth. After all, you got nothing to lose.
Mark, what's Not Undone about?
Not Undone, actually, it's one of the songs on the record that is at least a decade old, maybe a little older than that. It was a song I wrote back in 2009. I was asked by CBC to be a part of this concert called the Stolen Children Series concert. So it was various Indigenous musicians and their parents. So it was myself and my mother, who's a residential school survivor. So she started off the show, speaking about some of her experiences, and she did an opening prayer, and then we went into this song, and it was a song that I wrote especially for that concert. And since then, I've always loved the song, but just couldn't find a place to put it on a record because it just didn't seem to fit the other songs thematically until now. So it's great to have that song finally out there.
No, and I'm glad you can finally share that story. And I didn't realize your mother, a survivor of the residential school system.
Yeah, I had many aunts, uncles, cousins that I went through the system as well.
All right, so again, home of real talk. So I don't know if I can ask anything that I want. And
Sure.
I'm curious. Okay, so we talked earlier. We mentioned the Tragically Hip because they played them all the time on Rock 94 or whatever.
That's right. Yeah.
All right. So I'm a big fan of the Tragically Hip.
Yes.
Confess to that. Big fan. And, of course, one of the last projects that Gord Downey worked on before his passing was The Secret Path.
That's right.
And I believe it did a tremendous job of raising awareness. And Gord he didn't do what Buffy did. Like, he didn't claim any Indigenous blood in his, but he is a white man telling the story. And I always wondered, is that cool with you?
It is, because the more, I think, chances we have at getting our story out there, and, the more chances we have of reaching a more diverse audience, then I'm all for that. And, again, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this project with the Sultans, because these sort of cross-collaborative projects, I think it's important to exposing people to not just new music, but also new ideas, and, of course, maybe issues and challenges like this they may not have learned, growing up.
No, they did a piss poor job of educating us on this front
right.
growing
That's
up.
right.
I mean,
That's right,
I
yeah.
literally it takes there's a project here called The Secret Path, and you learn the story of Chenny Wenjack, and your eyes start to open up.
That's right.
It's so it raises awareness. So it's amplifying this messaging. As long as you don't falsely claim Indigenous ancestry,
That's right.
we're all good with this. Good. I'm glad to hear this, actually, because I heard a couple of comments that criticizing the white man bringing this messaging to Canadians, but amplifying the message with a very famous person like Gord Downey is good.
Absolutely. And we've actually done shows with the Downey Wenjack Foundation in the last couple of years. I do have a criticism against the organization because in recent years they've been hiring pretendians to do some of these events.
Okay. And you're not naming these pretendians that are hired?
They're aware of it because they've been contacted. They're in the process. There's a process happening right now. Actually.
If I'm a pretendian, I'm shaking in my boots right now.
You should be, because we're coming after you. We're coming after you legally in civil court. Yeah.
Wow, I didn't realize that that foundation was this. Oh goodness, stay tuned. Like we'll have a little chat when we take our photo by the Toronto tree.
You got it.
Dave Thomas anointed it the Toronto tree. I will be asking you for some of these names here. Oh my goodness gracious! Now, so I did buy the artist who drew the Chenny Wenjack picture on the railway. I did pay $50 for a print, which I like very much. But okay, yeah. Now, I want to play another song, and just because I've got you here in my basement, Mark, and I'm digging these songs here.
Well, thank you so much.
This song from The Mission, which is available now, is called Moondrum. How would you like somebody to consume The Mission? Like, if do you have a preference in which way they buy this music?
Honestly, I don't. Whatever is convenient to you, whatever you enjoy listening to, I don't really have any preferences.
People don't. Some do, but most don't buy music anymore. They sort of borrow it, they rent it or borrow it. I don't know what the term would be, but via Spotify or YouTube or something like that.
But even just following us on social media or Spotify, it really helps. Even if you don't buy the music, those numbers help because programmers, artistic directors, they look at the numbers, and that's how they're going to determine who they program for their festival or for their radio station or
That's
whatnot.
a good point. That's one of the things that irks me about this new age. It's like, how many Instagram followers do you have? It's like who the F cares? Like, it's like, but where would we look up Nadjiwan? Was that like how would we follow you on social, etc.?
Well, the best way, we have a Nadjiwan Music Facebook page. Okay. That's probably the most active, only because I'm lazy. I don't feel like joining a bunch of social media platforms. So but if you go to the Merilainen Music Instagram, that has everything. It has the label, it has Nadjiwan, that has all the other projects that we do. And that's updated quite regularly because I don't do it. It's my wife that does it.
Well,
we
got to shout out your wife here.
That's right. Big shout out to Laura Merilainen. She's not just my life partner, but business partner, and she actually is one of the best music managers in the business. She manages a wonderful roster of artists herself, including Nadjiwan, who's the Toronto Photo Laureate, North Sound, Lancelot Knight, Burke Jodwin, and there's someone I'm sure I'm forgetting. Sorry. So she does a lot of great work, and a big shout out to her. Otherwise, a lot of the stuff wouldn't even be possible.
Okay, I'm going to spell real quick, some spelling time. This is the spelling portion of the Toronto Mic'd episode. Merilainen, I'm just going to do it. Merilainen, and there's a, please, what is the two dots on the A called?
Umlaut.
I knew that, because Motley Crue has it.
That's right, yeah. So, yeah,
they're pretending to use it.
Yeah, that's right. My dad actually is Finnish, and surprisingly, I speak Finnish fluently.
Do a little for me.
Minä tietää puhua suomalainen. Minä isä on suomalainen.
Okay, shout out to Yari Curry, who played with the Great One, and of course, Teemu Sulani.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's funny because I was in Finland a few years ago, and I don't really look Finnish. So when I start talking, they're surprised. They're like, how do you know our language, and how do you speak it so well? Right. And then I got to tell them, well, my dad was Finnish. And,
okay, okay, give you. And then Nadjiwan, I'll spell it. Nadjiwan.
That's right, Nadjiwan. That's the Anglo way of saying it. But if you were a Ojibwe or Potawatomi, you would say Nadjiwan.
Nadjiwan.
That's right.
Okay.
There you go, yeah.
I'm learning here. Now, a few hot hits on the way out here. Thoroughly enjoyed this. I'm going to start following you. Go to Facebook, follow you, and root for you. And I can't wait to share this episode of The Masses. I don't often go back to back, but these are such entirely different episodes. Like, Mike Richards comes in, pops open the can of beer and makes his big announcement, okay? And I won't spoil the announcement because Mike Richards makes it in the previous episode, which is 1595. This is 1596. We get to play some music, talk about your career as an artist. And I'm curious about something. I had a woman on named Carolyn Taylor, and she is a comedian, and she was with a troupe called, goodness gracious, Baroness von Sketch. I once called it Baron von Sketch, and that offended her, of course, because it's Baroness von Sketch.
Right.
And it was on CBC.
That's right. I recall that show. That's right.
Yeah.
They did a funny sketch on land acknowledgement.
There you go. Okay. So I played it for her because it resonates with me because I'm in all these events, and I go to a lot of things. I go to school things, all these things, and we open these events with a land acknowledgement. Okay. Always. It would be Massey Hall, wherever I am. And in this comedy a bit from Baroness von Sketch that Carolyn Taylor helped write, she makes the point like, so we stole the land, this is land acknowledgement, we took this land from indigenous peoples, maybe we should give it back, like we should leave. Should we leave? Like, it's not our land, maybe we should give it back if we took it from them. And it's like, oh no, we just do this land acknowledgement. And then I always wonder, there's sometimes I won't speak for all white people here from European descent, but it's like, we feel like we're doing something when we're doing like the bare minimum. Okay, so we do the land acknowledgement, and we feel like, okay, that makes it okay somehow. I'm curious for your thoughts on that. Like what do you think of these land acknowledgements that we're doing before a Blue Jay game? We do it like,
sure.
What are your thoughts on them?
Well, I won't speak for all Indigenous people, but a lot of us, we think it's dumb. In fact, when I first heard it being done like years ago, I thought it was a joke.
Right.
Again, because it means nothing. It's the equivalent of reposting or liking a tweet or reposting on Facebook, and now you think you've solved world hunger because you shared that meme that said something about world hunger or whatever issue.
Or if you just like the thoughts and prayers thing, like there'll
That's
be,
right.
I don't know, in America there'll be a big school shooting and it'll be
That's
my
right.
thoughts and prayers, and it's like, okay, that's like the bare minimum. It's actually probably worse because at least now you think you did something when you did nothing, which is worse than
Exactly.
doing nothing.
Exactly, and it's kind of like takes me back to those, and nothing against charity concerts or fundraisers, don't get me wrong, but
Right.
you go to one of these concerts, we solved it, we solved whatever the problem was, but no, you didn't. You may have rose awareness about it, but the key is action. There's a lot of, talk is cheap, that whole expression.
Of course.
But it's all about action. I'm more interested in seeing actions and behaviors changed, personally.
So when you go to, I don't know, you're not a big sports fan, but if you go to an event at Massey Hall, some concert, and then it opens with land acknowledgement, you're like okay, like, is this all Canada's going to do? Like, do you feel Canada's doing enough to reconcile what are this ugly part of our history?
Yeah, no, that Canada hasn't done anything. I mean, they put out recommendations. I think it was 94 recommendations, and how many has the Canadian government actually enacted on? I think not even like 10.
Maybe the low-hanging fruit.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. So it's up to the artist. It's up to us to, implement a lot of these suggestions. And again, that's the big sort of proponent behind the Walking Through the Fire tour, because one of the suggestions was have non-Indigenous and Indigenous artists collaborate to create, works of art that we could take out to the public. And that's kind of what we've done with the project. And hopefully that inspires other artists to do collaborative projects of their own.
Okay, can you elaborate on that project?
Yeah, so it's the Sultans of String. A number of years ago, they put out the Refuge Project, which was them celebrating new Canadians, new immigrants to the country. So Duke Redbird, who is a wonderful elder, an educator in our community, he's in Anishinaabe, not too far from the community I'm from, actually. I believe he's from Saugeen. So he contacted Chris McCool and said, hey, when are you going to do the same for Indigenous people, what you did for immigrants? And, Chris took that as a call to action. And that's kind of how the project got started. And we're still doing it now.
Okay. And while I've got you here, I feel like all these questions I've been thinking about for a while here, stewing here. But
Sure.
One is, of course, we have a university in Toronto we now call Toronto Metropolitan University.
Right.
You might have heard of it.
That's right. I think I've heard of it, yes.
Well, I just did okay. So this is like sort of a kind of a self-promotion thing, but at some point later this week, I will drop in the Toronto Mike feed this panel discussion I had at the Masonic Temple with Gary Topp, and a panel that included people like Colin Brunton and Jeff Silverman and Ivor Hamilton and Gary Cormier. And I moderated this panel. It got recorded, and this will be an episode. But we talked quite a bit about the Garys. The Garys were famous concert promoters. And one of the venues they're famous for booking concerts on, and I think about this every time it's the anniversary of the killing of John Lennon, is because the night that John Lennon was murdered is the night that the aforementioned Rob Pruce made his debut of the Spoons at a venue that was known as The Edge. So it was named after Edgerton Ryerson. They called it The Edge. And that night, the Spoons introduced their new keyboardist, a 15-year-old named Rob Pruce, and that was the night John Lennon was killed here. That's a long-winded way of bringing up this name, Edgerton Ryerson. And now that name is not associated in any way with you have to say, with that university. They're called Toronto Metropolitan University. Is that something more significant that you're actually going to now delete some homage to some architects of the residential school system that your mother was forced into?
Yeah, I'm not sure how that helps, to be honest with you, other than it looks like we're kind of brushing something under the rug. I think it's important to talk about these things so that we never repeat them again in the future.
So perhaps it's better to keep the name, but make sure that it's a conversation starter. Like you add the context of what this person that we're named after did. Like instead of just renaming it TMU, maybe if you're still called Ryerson, now that will trigger this conversation about what that gentleman did.
Yeah, it's very possible. Again, we're living in a weird sort of polarized time. Where there's a lot of people who are trying to control each other's thoughts and what we say in order for some greater good. When really at the end of the day, the only way we're going to get through this is having an honest exchange of ideas and thoughts across the table.
Okay, well said, my friend. Listen, this was a great hour, and I hope this is not the last time that we chat, because at some point, maybe in 2025, as I don't know, news happens or new music is released and new events happen, since it's not a far trek for you, we get you back in the basement.
Oh, absolutely. I'd love to. Thank you so much.
But good luck with again, people can pick up the mission anywhere, but we can go, what's the website, or is it just go to the Facebook
You know, you
page?
can go to headingnorthmusic.com. And
Heading,
you can actually buy
Heading.
directly from us. So if you want to bypass Apple Music and Spotify.
Well, that's where I was going with that. Do you have a
Yeah.
preferred? Because I would think if I'm an artist, it's like, yeah, I want you to consume my art, but if I were king for a day, I would have you buy it directly from me. So
There you
there's
go.
more money ends up in the artist's pocket, and you can feed yourselves.
That's right. And you'll find some interesting things on that website. We also have vinyl for sale as well.
Yeah.
So
okay.
there you go.
All right. Continued success, and I hope you win some Junos, because you have a trophy case that needs filling.
Oh, thank you.
And it's better late than never is what I say.
That's true.
And that brings us to the end of our 1596th show. For me, go to torontomike.com. Follow me on Blue Sky, torontomike.com. I post there on the reg. But much love to all who made this possible. That's Great Lakes Brewery, Palma Pasta. That's recyclemyelectronics.ca. That's Moneris, and that's Ridley Funeral Home. A big thank you to, I think he's got like 4 or 5 shout-outs this episode. Maybe this was the Rob Pruce episode. But Rob Pruce, thank you again for the time and the effort to put together this new closing theme so I can play it without getting these takedown notices from whatever conglomerate owns the Rosie and Gray song from Shakespeare My Butt that I was using. I see on the live stream, great chat. Thank you to J-Ho for sticking it out and everyone else on the live stream. And I will just shout out the next guest. This episode will drop tomorrow. He's an editor at the Toronto Star, Doug Broad, but he's actually going to talk about a new book. We're going to talk about everything. But he wrote a new book about the founder of the Church of Satan. So the founder, you might visualize him in his head, shaved head. He's got this kind of scary, imposing presence. No longer with us. Shout out to Ridley Funeral Home. But the founder of the Church of Satan, this great book that Doug wrote, he's going to come over and talk about it. That'll drop tomorrow. See you all then.